Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session that was created for a client that was a high achiever, very competent and professional, and had a lot of responsibilities. And one of his internal strategies that he wasn't really happy about was that every now and then, if he felt that he had made a mistake or not lived up to his own standards, there would be a lot of internal self-criticism. This is a voice inside his own head that was telling him, like, why'd you do that? You know, you're an idiot. You know, not necessarily constructive stuff, but definitely with a positive intention of maintaining high standards. What you're going to hear in this hypnosis session is introducing an alternative strategy, which is more exploratory, to figure out what could have been done to still keep the standards just as high, but do it in a more constructive, collaborative way from the perspective of learning from the benefit of hindsight. What would you have done differently? And there's an element of parts therapy here. There's several metaphors and analogies and an attempt to position self-criticism itself as a mistake, which then creates what's called a double bind in hypnosis, where for someone that has high standards, now self-criticism becomes a form of a unacceptable standard, and therefore creating more incentive to implement the new strategy. If you suffer from self-criticism or you don't handle criticism from other people very well, you might benefit from this hypnosis session, but just realize that it was utilized and created for a specific client with specific details that are relevant for them. So if you think it would be helpful to work with a hypnotherapist in the area of criticism or self-criticism, there will be a link in the show notes that you can book a free 30-minute consultation call with me to explore working with me, or in fact, just to book the sessions if you feel comfortable enough to work with me already. But in the meantime, find a comfortable place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, just allow your eyelids to close. And as they close, take another deep breath in, breathing in a resourceful feeling of relaxation and exhaling tension, enabling you to go deeper and deeper relaxed. As you breathe in and breathe out, notice that as you slow down your breathing, as you allow your breath to take longer to leave as you exhale, breathing out for more than you normally would enables you to breathe even deeper. And the deeper you breathe, the deeper relaxed you go. As you breathe in more of that resourceful feeling of relaxation and exhale more feelings of tension, stress, and anxiety that leaves your body in your outward breath. want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine a house that overlooks the sea. I want you to think of a specific room where you can look through the glass and see the landscape, see the waves, perhaps see the horizon and maybe clouds. I want you to imagine you are sitting on a relaxing chair, and I want you to look out to the sea. And I want you to appreciate that you can appreciate everything that you see without having any control over what you see. You can't control the weather. You can't control the waves. You can't control the wind. The only thing you can control is what you focus on. What are you looking at? What are you noticing? I want you to get a sense that as you're looking out over the sea, I want you to imagine that you can see a storm coming. I want you to get a sense that things happen, and not everything happens as you intend or want them to happen. But as you see the storm going over the sea, I want you to get a sense that everything naturally just flows. Storms come and storms go. The waves may get higher, and then sometimes the surface of the sea may be very smooth. I want you to get a sense that as you look out over the turbulent waters, you get a sense that it's okay if everything isn't always okay. Someone can want a sunny day, gentle waves, and no wind. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And just because something doesn't go to the plan doesn't always mean that you need a contingency for that plan. I want you to get a sense that there are so many areas of your life that you accept, that things just are the way they are. It would be ridiculous for someone to be screaming at the clouds there by the coast, telling them that they should be doing something different. The clouds will do what the clouds will do. But that individual could simply focus on something else, something more useful. As you imagine being there on that chair, looking out at the ocean, breathe in and breathe out and find yourself going deeper and deeper relaxed. And then I want you to imagine that the storm goes away. The clouds disappear. It's now very sunny. And I want you to imagine that while you're still on the chair, that you're falling into a sleep, into a dream, and then in that dream, I want you to imagine that you are somewhere on that coast. Maybe on a rocky beach, maybe on a cliff top, but somewhere near that coast, but no longer in your body. I want you to get a sense that there are many different versions of you. different versions of you that are good at different things. And that's useful. I want you to look up into the sky and see two planes going in opposite directions that narrowly miss each other. And I want you to get a sense that when there's a near miss, there will be an investigation. A mistake was made. An accident nearly happened. And therefore it's imperative to figure out what happened to ensure that similar things are less likely to happen again. But in order for there to be an investigation, there can only ever be multiple parties involved. There are at least two different pilots. There are different people involved in navigation, planning routes, equipment to check, and therefore it would be wrong to just assume that one person is to blame when there's too many different variables involved. I want you to get a sense that criticizing someone is like punishing someone. And in order to punish someone, don't you need evidence? And don't you need information in order to make that judgment? I want you to get a sense that those that are punished start building identities of their worthiness, and sometimes who they are and what kind of person they are. Whereas sometimes, in the spirit of constructive investigation, it's possible to not need to blame or punish, but more figure out a way that things that shouldn't have happened don't happen again. And somewhere near the sea, I want you to imagine is a hut, a wooden hut. And inside that hut is going to be a part of you that doesn't respond well when mistakes are made, when standards have slipped, when something didn't go to plan. I want you to imagine you're standing outside the hut. I will count down from 5 to 1, and when I arrive at 1, you will imagine opening the hut door, going in the hut, and then imagining that on the opposite side of the hut will be the part of you responsible for the aftermath of a mistake or failure. Starting to count 5, standing in front of the door, 4, perhaps putting your hand on the handle, 3, opening the door, 2, walking through the door, 1, closing the door behind you, going to one corner of the hut and then seeing on the opposite corner, the opposite side of the hut, a part of you that doesn't like to fail, doesn't like mistakes. And maybe this is a part you would call Dick, and if it feels like it's that part, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to communicate with Dick. And first of all, I want you to thank him for his positive intention. I want you to thank him for what he's trying to do. You can guess that he's trying to maintain high standards, to avoid mistakes, to make sure things are done right. And if he agrees with that sentiment, let me know by nodding your head. But I want you to let him know that as much as you appreciate that intention of high standards, of avoiding mistakes, of contributing to a culture of success and achievement and accomplishment, that there are downsides. And I want you to recall times that you've been ratty, narky, cranky, irritable, maybe lashed out at people that didn't deserve it. And I want you to stream these memories as thoughts straight from your mind to the mind of Dick. Just to let Dick know that by him trying to raise standards, to avoid mistakes in the way that he's doing it, is causing problems. I want you to ask Dick if he's the person responsible for the criticism or if he's the person responding to the criticism. And if it feels like he's responsible for the criticism, let me know by nodding your head. Okay. Which means that Dick is the voice of that criticism that says, that shouldn't have happened. Why did you do that? That's not acceptable. And if that sounds like it's true, let me know by nodding your head. And again, I want you to stream another memory of a time that, as a result of this, maybe true criticism, but harsh criticism, that you responded in a cranky way. You weren't good to be around. The people around you could see you were in a bit of a mood. Maybe it led to an argument. Maybe it led to some kind of problem. And again, I want you to stream that thought all the way over to Dick, so Dick knows the consequences of this form of feedback. I want you to ask Dick if there was a way that he could maintain those high standards to ensure that there's no complacency, that where possible mistakes can be avoided, if he would be open-minded to a different way of achieving that outcome. And if you would, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to shift perspective so you're no longer in your body. I want you to be in the body of Dick. So as I'm speaking to you, I'm now speaking to Dick. And when I'm now speaking to Dick, let me know by you nodding your head. Again, I would like to thank you for your intention. You're the drill sergeant. You're quality control. You want to make sure that where possible mistakes can be avoided, the standards are high. And that has to be admired. In fact, it's necessary. Because the alternative is complacency, sloppiness, falling short of other people's expectations. And I'm wondering if you knew that the way in which you were delivering this criticism, this feedback, was causing a feeling of hurt, irritability, causing problems that perhaps you didn't realize. And if you weren't aware, just let me know by nodding your head. But now that you are aware, I'm wondering if there's a different strategy. Because if the purpose is to avoid the mistakes, then surely you can't change the past, but you can learn from the past to influence the future. And I'm wondering if you're happy if we invite a part of you into this hut that is excellent at contingency planning. And if you're happy for them to join, let me know by nodding your head. And then I want you to see a new part enter the room. I want you to see what they look like Maybe they dress differently, professionally, in a very organized way, strategic, methodical. I want you to get a sense that the ideal way to avoid mistakes from repeating itself is two key things: acceptance that mistakes sometimes happen, and a realization that mistakes are a gift, a form of reconnaissance, a form of intelligence, a form of learning that mean that actually mistakes can act like a near miss, an opportunity to avoid bigger mistakes in the future by learning from this small mistake. And I'm wondering if you're happy to work with this part that is excellent at contingencies to go about things in a different way. That when a mistake happens, you see it as a gift, an opportunity to raise standards even higher by learning what could have been different in those circumstances. Your job is to maintain that standards never slip. But the way that you'll do that is through encouragement and investigation. And if you're happy to try this approach, where you accept that standards will never fall, but you will achieve those higher standards in a really collaborative, explorative way to figure out what could genuinely be different to reduce mistakes and failures in the future, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to now jump into the body of this part that's excellent at contingencies. And if I'm now speaking to that part, let me know. That's it. Is it okay if I call you Harry? So Harry, I want to thank you for the excellent abilities you have in trying to avoid mistakes that happen or could happen in the future. But I'm wondering if you're also willing to work with Dick to learn from these near misses. So when something didn't happen as you wanted it to think of, if you had a time machine, what contingency would have been necessary to have avoided that setback, that failure, that mistake. Because if you can create contingencies for things that haven't happened yet, I'm wondering how confident you could feel at creating a contingency for something that did happen if you could go back in time and do it differently. And if you feel that that's possible for you, let me know by nodding your head. From this point forward, mistakes and setbacks are opportunities to raise standards, to create new contingencies for future similar events. Humans are pattern recognition machines. So therefore, if you can recognize patterns in genuine mistakes and near misses, then it means that you are empowering yourself to get better and better, just like artificial intelligence, at creating even more robust contingencies for things in the future. Avoiding the patterns of mistakes, to reduce mistakes, to increase standards, but in a collaborative, encouraging way. If you're now willing to work with Dick in this way so that there is less need for blame and more need for strategy, for wisdom, for insight, for planning. If you're willing to be a part of that process, looking at mistakes as opportunities to raise standards, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to jump back into your original version of you so you can now see Harry and Dick on the opposite side of the room. And I want you to notice that the way they look is changing. Maybe Dick is looking less stern, less aggressive, less like a drill sergeant, and more like a professional investigator. Looking at mistakes and failures as an opportunity to raise standards by a thorough investigation. An investigation that comes from collaboration, curiosity, not blame and shame and guilt. And also see that Harry is also evolving. You've given Harry a promotion, not just to think of the future, but to learn from the past. And in doing so, increasing their ability to work collaboratively as a team. And if you find yourself in that spirit of self-criticism, then from this point forward, self-criticism is also a mistake because it's ineffective. And there is now a more effective strategy, in which case, any harsh self-criticism that leads to you feeling ratty, narky, cranky requires an investigation, requires you to ask yourself, with the benefit of Dick and Harry, to treat this itself as a gift, to learn from, to do things differently, to avoid something that falls short of your expectations, because your standards are not to be ratty and narky and cranky to people that don't deserve it. In which case, this now becomes the biggest mistake, an avoidable mistake, with new strategies to avoid this mistake. And if all three parts now agree that self-criticism in this harsh, uncompromising way just isn't helpful, and there is a better way, and therefore that form is now a future mistake, let me know by nodding your head. And now I want you to return. All parts integrated into that present version of you, firstly in that conservatory overlooking the ocean, and now back in your body, all parts fully integrated as you take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Get a sense that you're fully present in the moment as I count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, or wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.